Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Cheers. It's Thursday. And I hit the ground running. So there we go. I trust hit the ground running. So there we go. I trust everyone's doing well today and everybody's having a wonderful morning and cool things like that. Good morning, Michael. Good morning, Mike. Cheers. Hey, good morning, Edward. Cheers. How are you? Thanks for joining. Good morning, Kurt.
Good morning.
Cheers.
My giant novelty mug of coffee.
You know, if we stand real back and it looks, yours looks much bigger than mine. I like that. Les runs to the, there we go. Yeah. Wow. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you? You've been busy.
I have. Yes, I've been busy. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
How'd your show end up last night?
It was fine. It was over soon after you left. It wasn't.
Did you get rid of all of your 12-inch, all 400 of them?
No, not yet, but that's okay because I can offer them here at the shops. So yeah. So it's okay. I can offer them here. I can always do mystery boxes. I can do all sorts of things. I haven't done mystery boxes in a while, mainly because I'm not getting in as many records. So I don't have as many boxes to fill up. Yeah. Edward says hello.
Good morning.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what you can share with us.
Great. Yeah, I pulled mainly things that I've gotten over the last few weeks. There's a few other kind of exceptional things that I was going to share. At COVID times, I seem to go into this kind of overblown mode of spending a lot of time on the internet buying things. So come across a few gems. A lot of it's going to be kind of punky stuff. So maybe not everyone has seen or knows that. But I'm going to start off with this box set, this neat box set I got yesterday from the Clean. This is a four record anthology of the Clean is a band out of Australia. Or out of New Zealand, excuse me. And they've been around for about 40 years. A lot of their early stuff in particular was only available on vinyl and was really hard to come by. So Flying Nun, which is their primary label, and Merge in the US put out this four record anthology of really all their early stuff. It's kind of I don't know, it's kind of they run the gamut from kind of being early post-punk to really kind of a little bit more contemporary now, as you hear some of their things these days. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm excited to listen to it. So I have a couple of their other things in my collection. So I think that's pretty cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
This one.
Is that an American or Australian release?
The one I have is the Merge Records release.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But
cool.
it comes on Flying. The Flying Nun they're pretty much the what am I want to say? The poster child for Flying Nun. If you're familiar with Flying Nun, they did a lot of stuff there. Franz Kafka at the Zoo is on here. I don't know what that song is, but it sounds like a good song. Excellent. So there's going to be an eclectic, crazy mix of things here. I picked this up from you a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, Shuggy. Yeah.
This is a fantastic album. I mean, I heard some of it, some of his stuff in different capacities over over years, but this is just an amazing record. It really goes from kind of psychedelic to soul to some cool instrumental stuff, and it's just a really something else. So I was stoked to get it, and
That's
have been
very cool.
really enjoying it. So those of you who are not Shuggy fans should think about it, and not necessarily pick this one up, but at least some of his stuff, because I'm not giving this one up.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic, Shuggy. Very cool.
This is a rare one, and I'll be surprised if anybody has it. But the band is Mogan David and his Winos, and Savage Young Winos is the name of the record. Evolution of a Rock Band, Big Beat Performances. So we'll play a little trivia game here for all of you. This probably only Harold Bronson's probably only actual record that he recorded on. Do we all know who Harold Bronson is?
Good question. I don't. Harold Bronson.
Does anyone
want to? Was a movie star Bronson, Charles Bronson.
Well, it's not Charles Bronson.
What is he, a relative of Charles?
No, not necessarily. It could be, I guess, but I doubt it is. It's kind of got this neat gatefold, fold down, fold out thing. Harold Bronson is the founder of Rhino Records.
Rhino. Oh, great. Yeah.
So he was co-founder. He and I can't think of his partner's name. But this is a band he was in the late 60s, early 70s that was in the San Francisco Bay Area, I believe. And they just kind of played kind of weird rock, and then a few cover tunes, mostly cover tunes, but a couple of their own songs. So they do like Beauty Queen, they do Love Potion No. 9, they do a Led Zeppelin song on here too. It's actually pretty punky. It's like 1973 punk in some sense, but it's just because they're a bad garage band. Not bad, but an interesting garage band more than anything else. So I stumbled on this in some auction, and it was like, wow, look at that cover. I love the name of that band. And I did a little bit of investigation and figured out it was maybe a little bit more cool than people thought it was. And so I got it kind of for a steal, but it's still
cool.
A fun thing to have. It's fun to listen to the first time I did. I don't know if I'd listen to it a lot, but a lot of my collection things are just kind of about possession, and not possession, but the hunt and finding something or finding that treasure. So a lot of what I have now is treasure bound in that sense.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I know that yesterday, I think on your show, you had a little bit about we were having some discussions about Split Ends, and
yes,
their kind of greatest hits collection or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. This is their first record. This is Split Ends Mental Notes. This is actually the Mushroom release. So this is the Australian release of the Split Ends records. So it's also got a little bit of split seam, but that's, what are you going to do when your record's really old? So it's got, early Tim Finn on there and some of those other folks. This is when they were first getting started and really kind of starting to do their thing. So I love it. Again, I stumbled onto it. Actually, a friend of mine who was purging his collection just kind of, threw out all these different records and said, hey, pick these up if you want them, Kurt. And he sold it to me for a song. Not literally a song, but because he's got 2 or 3 copies of it. But he's a big collector out in Seattle. I'm edging to be in his collection range. And I think he purged down to 10,000, and almost all of it is new wave, punk, psych, and prog, actually. So
wow. That is cool. Yeah. Yeah. Was that released in America with a different cover, perhaps?
It could have been. Like I said, this is the, as I understand it, this is actually the Australian release. So it's very possible that the American one. This was 1973, I think. 76, 73, 76. I'm getting my numbers confused. But I should say on here, shouldn't it? Guess I can read. 75. This came out in 75. So it's possible that it was also released on one of their American labels once they got picked up.
Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for joining. He says that's their real first Mental Notes. U.S. version was actually their second album called Second Thoughts.
There you go. The real deal.
Sure is.
I was hoping Stephen would be on here. He's a great source of information. So, I know you're a big fan. I am as well. Pick this up. This is the Japanese release of Confusion from New Order. So again, I've got 4 versions of this record as it is right now. So it's probably no different than the other versions, but it's got this cool stuff on it.
Absolutely. And it probably sounds better.
Yeah. So what's the deal with that? I've had this conversation with other folks about Japanese releases having a much better pressing, or is that what it is, or?
It's a combination of years, equipment, time, process.
All the above. Yeah.
Yeah, just the process of we're going to make it sound as best as we possibly can. We care more about the sound. I'm sure money's important too, but yeah.
Yeah, this is 1,500, whatever the Japanese currency is. What is the Japanese?
Yes, whatever the Japanese currency is. Yes.
Sorry, Japanese friends. I don't know what the currency is there.
It's probably yen, but that's.
Oh, it could be yen. Yeah, it's got a Y on there, so that must be yen.
Could be. Yeah.
I'm thinking of that Seinfeld episode where the guy said, "You had 1,500 yen, and they ran out of money." While I am on New Order, this is not going to be able to be as seen as well. At least the gray box of it is. You might see on there it says "Music Complete." The Music Complete. This is the box set of New Order's, not their, I think maybe their last release actually, with like 7 different discs. So some of you may recognize that as the cover from the original. Let me pull this out, which is, so essentially this record, but with a lot of different extended mixes and remixes, and this cool little book that comes with it, detailing lots of different pictures of the same thing. So again, huge New Order fan. I've seen him 4 times, saw him 4 times, I think. So won't get to see him probably again as they are. I haven't seen Peter Hook's group yet. I had a chance to, but was unfortunately hospitalized, so I couldn't go. So, but really kind of a lifelong obsession, because I started my whole journey really with Joy Division. So, yeah, it's as close as you can get.
All right.
I remember, and this is kind of like almost a Grateful Dead story, but it's not for me. Back in the day when I lived in Nebraska, they were playing at a place called Red Rocks, not Red Rocks, it was a small club in Denver, Colorado, about 800-seat club. And we didn't have tickets. We heard about it from somebody else because it didn't have the internet back in '85. And so we just headed over to Denver and walked around until someone just gave us a gift of, oh yeah, here you can have my tickets. I got backstage passes. So
very cool.
Yeah,
that is awesome. Hey, good morning, Love Hollis.
Morning.
One for you.
Man, lost in this cup.
Absolutely. Don't drown.
All right. So, are we still pacing all right? Am I doing okay? I'm not throwing things off here.
We're doing fine.
Not freaking you out with all my variation of music.
Not at all. Oh, Divine! I don't have any Divine on vinyl. Good for you.
Yeah, I've got a few. Divine. for those of you that this is a 12-inch single. This is her last 12-inch single.
Oh,
This was released just before Glenn Milstead's death, who was Divine in '83. It's cheeky, it's disco, it's fun stuff, and if you're into Divine at all, or Roger Waters, not Roger Waters, the director,
Waters?
yeah, then you would fancy yourself some Divine. One of the best things I have of Divine is the Name Game. She did a single of the banana banana fofana me my momana. A little trick with Dick bobic nana fofic. It's hilarious, and it was released on Wax Trax, I think, originally. So it's a great little thing.
And those YouTube videos of Divine performing live, her music is just amazing.
Yeah, she used to pack the discos.
Yeah. Good morning, Ron. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Again, probably not unknown to many of our fine watchers, but the DB's. DB's Amplifier, which was one of their early releases. Their first, but this is on the Albion Music. So it's certainly before they were quote unquote majors. Mainly just loved that song, Amplifier. It's one of those songs that in the middle of the night, my brain will start kicking into the chorus of that. Amplifiers just wood and wire, and wood and wire don't mean anything. So it's a lot of fun in that sense. Plus the DBs are, kind of a jangle pop / mid to late 80s stalwart. Chris Stamey has done a lot. So
he has. Did you discover that in Nebraska?
I knew the DBs back in Nebraska. I mean, I didn't know them. I learned of the DBs way back when, but this was a recent find or recent pickup. I don't remember even where I got it. Okay. Jeez. You and I have talked at different times about some of the kind of 4AD artists and some of kind of the ethereal things. This is Daniel Dax. It's not on 4AD, but it's certainly got that kind of feel to it, and at least particularly the cover. It's just this beautiful cover, and the record is Cat House, and this is a 12-inch as well. It's kind of gothy, kind of experimental, but it's just got this beautiful cover that really kind of I found fetching, and so it's on the Awesome Records label out of London. So again, she wasn't quite up to speed for some of those bigger labels, but she kind of was around that group. Daniel Dax. It's funny. Last week, or was it last week? You had a TV, the guy from Australia.
Yeah, TV spin.
Yeah,
TV vinyl spin.
Yeah. And as I was pulling some of these records I got in the last few weeks, last month or so, I discovered that many of them were actually Australian acts.
Oh, very cool.
Not the ones that he was sharing, but still groups that came out of Australia. This is the Celibate Rifles. This record is called the Celibate Rifles, or 5 languages, because apparently this is Celibate Rifles written in 5 languages. Mm-hmm. It's actually, they're Australian, kind of a post-rock indie band who, I don't think this is closed by now. So I was doing a little investigation for them, and I found this quote about someone who described them, and this is a quote from a Rolling Stone. Early Rolling Stone review of their music, and it said, described it as urban teen frenzy with lyricist Lovelock, who's the name of the lyricist, adult fears erupting in a glowing atomic fireball of bazooka guitars at terminal volume.
Wow. I like that.
So maybe Stephen, maybe you wrote that, but it sounds like something that kind of gives an idea of what it is. It's kind of at the time relatively, for lack of a better term, smaller label back in the early 80s. Kind of post-rock, indie rock, post-punk. You can jump back and forth on any of those. Awesome. Another group you may be familiar with, or some of us may be familiar with, and though it looks like a dirty picture, it's not. The Monochrome Set is the band. This is their Love Zombies record. I think I have 4 copies of this for some reason. And I don't know why. I think I just keep rescuing them from places that I see them at. The Monochrome Set, if you're not familiar with them, again, we're kind of a new wave post-punk out of London. It kind of late 70s, early 80s. They put together then they kind of reformed in the early 2000s. I probably did about 5 or 6 studio records, that being the second of them, I think. Their lead singer was a guy named Bid, B-I-D, and there's a song on this record called B-I-D spells Bid. And it's he was the lead singer. Lester Square was the name of their guitarist, which I'm guessing you recognize are not actually their real names. But Bid was of Indian origin, so he's from India. So it was really kind of an eclectic little mix of nationalities in some of their performances, and really kind of a little bit of, I don't know how to fully describe them. It's got a little bit of kind of edge to it, but it's also still danceable and kind of fun music. So it's, a couple of their songs are really fantastic. There's a couple songs that really get kind of dark in terms of some of the content, but really kind of interesting music, and always has been.
Hold that thought. I'm waiting for some things to show up in the. Here we go. So Timestamp joins us from. Good morning, Timestamp. Thanks for joining us. I love the Monochrome Set. I saw them live in 1980.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And Steven says the first Monochrome Set featured early Adam and the Ants members.
Yeah, and actually, I think it was Bid started in another band before Monochrome Set with Adam Ant. He was in a band with Adam Ant, and then Bid went on to Monochrome, and Adam went on to his group at the same time. If I got that right, but sounds like you know better than I do. And that's cool, Timestamp, that you got a chance to see them. They were playing at a record store in the Philly area when I was living in Pennsylvania about 8 years ago. I think that's what they were playing. But I didn't find out about it till too late because I was going to go see them play. And again, it was kind of late period, revamp, Bid and some other people, but it would have been fantastic.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah. Here you go. Adam, and I feel like you live in your record shops. Sometimes I feel that way too. How I'm here and there and there getting some sleep. Yeah. So there we go.
So I'm glad some people on here recognize the Monochrome Set, and I've had a chance to. And for those of you who haven't yet, if you're really interested in listening to some music, I'd look them up on YouTube. There's a couple of really great videos of some of their work.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
Again, kind of in the vein of 4AD and other kind of ethereal type music. This is Felt. I don't know if you're familiar with Felt, Adam. This isn't on 4AD. This is on Cherry Red. They do a lot of work on the Creation label as well. They did work on Creation later on.
I love Creation.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's collected the entire catalog of Creation. So
that's awesome.
It's kind of what he does. But this is one of this is I think their 3rd or 4th record on. This was on Cherry Red at the time before they kind of switched labels. It was the last record to have Maurice DeBank on it. If you're familiar with Maurice DeBank as a guitarist, and it was the first one that had Martin Duffy, who went on to be their kind of keyboard person. It's produced by Robin Guthrie, who is of the Cockcrow Twins. So that should give you a sense of what kind of feel Felt has. Wow, I didn't even plan that.
and I have that on CD, and I like it a lot. Very good stuff.
Yeah.
And I
So-
probably picked it up because Robin
Guthrie was on it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm taking a quick little break to drink some coffee.
I tell you, I love your coffee cup. I think it's getting bigger as we talk.
It's getting emptier. Nor was it full to begin with.
That's awesome.
I wanted to show this one because I made a faux pas the other day when I said it was the Major Tom guy, Pete Schilling, was the same as Pete Shelley. So I do know Pete Shelley, but and I don't know him, but I mean I know Pete Shelley. This is kind of his early synth poppy record after he left the Buzzcocks. Those of you that don't know the late Pete Shelley, he helped form the Buzzcocks. Was pretty influential in the whole punk new wave development. Quite frankly, this record is. I mean, if you're used to the Buzzcocks, which please tell me you're all used to the Buzzcocks, but this one definitely kind of takes a left turn. Still great music, but
it is. I have a copy of that.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I love as well. Genetic Records.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just lose my mind and buy crazy weird stuff.
Oh yeah, you think so? Okay, great.
Slim Goodbody presents Inside Story. I think I picked this up at a thrift store for a nickel or a quarter or something, but that had to have it for the cover. Tell me you all don't buy records for the covers. It's a dude who used to go around, and maybe still goes around and does little one-man shows about the body, mainly for children, I think.
I've seen a few records that were very similar. I remember. Do you remember? Sorry, the bottom book, it folds out and it had those transparent overlays.
Oh yeah.
And I have a record that's got them huge fold out. Yeah, so that's really cool. Love that Pete Shelley album.
Yeah, it's a great
R.P. Pete Buzzcocks. Yeah, I was glad the book was reissued a couple of years ago.
Yeah. When he died, late 2015, 2016. I remember it wasn't too long ago. Pete Shelley. I saw this at your store the other day. I didn't buy your version of it, but as I told you, I like silly things sometimes. And it came yesterday. I did a little bit more investigation. I just bought it because I wanted a Tasty Freeze thing because I used to go to Tasty Freeze. Have you done any investigation on this record at all, Adam?
No, I couldn't help but think it's Herb Albert.
Well, I believe it may be Herb Albert or some part of his team, but there's 10 versions of this, at least 10 versions of this. There's a Kentucky Fried Chicken version of it. Yes. There's a pet ice cream version of it. There's totally weird, different stores all had this same, pretty much the exact same track, exact same cover almost, but with different promotional items on it. It must have been a little bit before I used to be paying attention to promotional things because I don't remember people handing out records. Not in that sense.
And also, it's kind of like that Christmas album with your radio station at the top. And the top, I mean, the cover's the same, but it's got your radio station call letter, and on the back, it has a write-up about your radio station. Good morning, Ron. Slim Goodbody used to have a segment on Captain Kangaroo, I think. Yeah. I grew up with Captain Kangaroo, and so, but now as I've aged, all those memories have jumped out of my mind. So it's possible that actually is true. I should go back and see. I've got a couple Captain Kangaroo records too. Maybe he's on those. Yeah, I think I saw one in your shop on the other day. Right, and TC purchased one. I got to ship it to him.
Oh, okay.
One out cool. Today. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to jump back away from the kind of crazy things for a little bit and do some of the kind of fundamental music that I listen to. This is the...
Let's see what happens. Kurt. All right. Hey, Kurt,
really
would you mind? Hey, Kurt, would you start over with that record right there? We had froze up a little bit.
This is the Rezillos. They're early Scottish punk new wave. They turned into a band called the Revillos after they had some changes after one or two records that they did as Revillos, and then they came back, I think, as the Revillos in the last few years. Late 70s, kind of first wave punk. Really kind of a fun, eclectic little group of folks there. Very cartoonish in some ways. This one includes the song "Someone's Gonna Get Their Head Kicked In Tonight," which is one that was covered by several other kind of later era punk bands. And it's very heavily influenced by kind of like 50s, 60s rock. So it's kind of almost a beat music, rock and roll beat sound to it, so to speak. Just kind of short poppy songs. Fantastic record, love it. I've had that one for I didn't get it in the 70s, but I probably got it in the late 80s, and I've been playing it ever since. I've got 3 CD copies of it and a couple other versions of it as well. But it's just a fun record to have around.
Yeah. Steven says that album has the most insane bass playing of the era.
Yeah, it's a great record. Really do love it. More contemporary, and you probably had this in your shop. If not, I'm sure you will at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Savages. This is the Silence Yourself record. I believe this is their, might be their first, but it could be their second record. Again, a quartet out of London. Largely contemporary. I think they only have 2 records right now. They may be working on a third. Really kind of revising some of that kind of post-punk noise rock that you kind of had that feel of the 80s. It's kind of really coming back in some of these more contemporary bands. Pretty aggressive stuff at times too. I heard a great, I don't remember what show it was. It was on NPR. They were doing an interview with a couple of the members, and this was probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and really kind of interesting stories about how they came to be what they are and some of their songs and all those kind of things. So cool stuff if you get a chance to check it out.
Awesome.
This is a if you're familiar with Steve Albini, who is a pretty prolific producer and has been in a number of pretty significant punk bands. He was in Big Black. He was in a band called Rape Band, and he was also in Shellac. This is Shellac, which this is one of their more recent albums, which is, I mean, I love that picture on the cover for whatever reason. But the record is Dude Incredible, and it's a. I don't know how I've stumbled into Steve Albini as a performer. I mean, Big Black and Rape Band, I have a lot of those records as well. But I was at a conference with a friend in Chicago, and he's one of my record collection friends. It wasn't a record conference, but he's like, let's go to this little club. And I said, okay, we're going to go to this little club. And it was like the Warehouse Club or some really tiny little joint that Steve Albini frequented. And he's there a lot, and that's kind of where he does a lot of his things. But some of the people that were there that day were just, you know, hey, that's that person. Hey, that's that person. It's like, wow, here we are in this little club on a Saturday afternoon, and there's all these kind of, hard to say celebrities, but people who are really kind of, oh,
yeah, well connected in the music industry. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, he did produce in Euro. Yeah. And side note to all that, and I think I'll talk a little bit about this other band, Savage Republic, who I'm friends with the band actually. They're out of California. But they recently went and did a recording with Steve for a new release that they're just getting the cover art and all that finished for right now. So it's kind of a EP release, but so it's got pictures of him with my buddy Tom and others doing their thing, so to speak. So it's kind of neat. One of my guilty pleasures, I guess, guilty or not, I'm guilty of it, is Public Image Limited. You know, I've always been a big fan of Johnny Lydon, and you know, even though he's kind of a jerk at times, but the Sex Pistols were clearly influential for all of us, and then John Lydon's done some really interesting things. Somehow picked up in the last few days a couple of these bootlegs, live recordings. You can't probably see that one that well. Maybe you can check out the plastic will help a little bit. This is called Public Image, recorded in Paris when no one was watching. It's of their Paris, one of their Paris concerts. This is one of their first recordings. So this is not the first recording, but this is the second recording of any of their live performances. In fact, this is the second live performance. Their first live performance wasn't recorded. And this has not only a few of the kind of standard Public Image songs, Theme, This Is Religion, a couple others, but it's got 3 or 4 Sex Pistols songs on it. So they were still incorporating both at the time into that work. So not one to just buy one. The person who was selling this was selling 2. So this is the Public Image Limited's Career with a Future. And hey, Carson, how are you? And it is this is a recording of them in 1980 at the Olympia Auditorium in Los Angeles on May 4th, 1980. So early stuff and exciting stuff.
Good morning, Carl.
While I'm at it, one of my holy grails has always been this little toy. Public Image's metal box.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's not as clean as I would like, but I finally got one at a decent price.
Yeah.
So I had to get it. And again, it's a metal box with essentially their 1979 release on three records, I believe. Yes, 3 records. So it's got the little metal box thing here. It's the same things that are on second edition, which is a non-metal version of this. But I'm tempted to try and clean it up, but I don't want to touch it.
Did you by chance get that from me?
I did not.
So I remember getting one in, and I don't remember if I sold it or if it's in the vault. But if I run
if it's in the vault, I'd like to see how clean it is. If you really want to sell it,
I think they were all dirty when they were new. So anyway, hey, by the way, who's your record listening buddy there?
That's my senior dog, Brody.
Hey, Brody.
He actually can't hear, so he makes a really good listening buddy.
Oh, very cool.
He's getting on his years. I think he's 14 now, so he's a rescue, but we love him. So,
oh, good. Well,
and he runs the house.
Yeah. Well, very good. Awesome.
Okay, go back a little bit, kind of odd, eclectic stuff. A lot of people would like to see Armin Sharbroek dead. This is the name of the band. That's the name of the album. The name of the record. The band is Armin Sharbroek Steels. I don't know how to pronounce his name, which is probably a real disservice. The best way to describe this is kind of a outsider experimental rock from the late or mid-early 70s. The story behind this record, which is just fascinating, it's a 3-disc set, and it's a crazy mix of, I don't think I can show the inside pictures because there's a little bit of questionable content there. It's a crazy mix of kind of spoken word and kind of, I would call it outsider kind of psych folk music. But the guy, Adam Sharbroek, at 17 years old, went on a crime spree in upstate New York. And him and a buddy went and robbed a bunch of stores and did some safe cracking and things like that, and ended up having to go to Elmira State Reformatory, which is a reformatory for kids or people in upstate New York. And this record is a result. Not he didn't record it there, but it's all his kind of thoughts and his experiences of being taken into and living in Elmira. So it's really kind of, again, I was caught by the cover. I think that's got to be something I'm going to listen to, and I've been listening to a little bit of it since I got it literally yesterday. So I'm excited to listen to the whole thing. He later went on to open in Rochester, New York, with his brother, the House of Guitars, which was a music store in Rochester, New York, which is apparently a very successful house of guitars.
Oh,
so yeah. Anyone new? Anything to talk about? Okay. I had this earworm in my head the other day, so I happened to be on an auction and I saw this actual whole record, Fred Neil's "Everybody's Talking." I love the song "Everybody's Talking." So this is kind of 60s pop folk, dark pop folk in some ways, if you want to think about it. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Fred Neil and some of his music and some of his songs, but it's again, it was the theme song from Midnight Cowboy, so that tells you a little bit about what kind of things may be incorporated in some of this music. There's a great cover of this by my name escapes me. He's an actor. He just passed away not too long ago. Anyway, I'll think of it later and send everyone a text or something. But just moving copy of it. So I didn't have that one. I love that song, so I picked that up. This one's kind of fun. And as it turns out, this is a second copy because I already had one and I forgot about, but this one has partial shrink on it. This is the Silicon Teens. The Silicon Teens, you're familiar with them?
I'm not at all.
Okay, this is on Mute Records.
Yeah.
It was the Silicon Teens were a brainchild of the Daniel Miller, who was the founder of Mute Records. Think of the Archies or the Gorillaz. They were never a real band. So it was largely Daniel Miller playing all the parts in terms of the recordings. And it was supposed to be kind of, like this early 80s, late 70s Archies type thing. It doesn't really play quite like that, a little bit, so to speak. Again, they have several cover songs. They do like Memphis, Tennessee and Do Wah Diddy and some of those things. But it's just kind of a fun piece of record label history. Yep, Daniel Miller from Mute Records, exactly. And the funny thing is, Daniel Miller pretty much did all the music, as I understand it. And then he had Frank Tovey, who some of you may know as Fad Gadget. If you've ever heard of Fad Gadget, was the kind of face of the band. So if there was anyone doing interviews or they had a front man who did something, Fad Gadget or Frank Tovey would be the one that represented the band in terms of I'm in the band, even though he wasn't in the band. So, and I think Fad Gadget or Frank Tovey did several things on Mute as well.
Very cool.
Yep, Bubblegum Synth Pop. That's a great description. Let's see, I'm getting a little bit down in my pile here, but I think we're also getting a little bit low on time. Just picked this one. I just got this the other day. Again, big fan of X.
Oh, I am so sorry, Kurt. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Seen X again 6 or 7 times, I think 3 or 4 times. And now I think about it, John Doe was one of the co-founders of X and one of the leaders of X. This one was before he went total kind of alt country-ish. He still does it all, right? John, pretty phenomenal artist and does a lot of crazy things. But this is one of his early self-releases, not self-release, solos. So the John Doe thing. Listened to it, gave it a spin yesterday. I was really excited to listen to the whole thing.
Oh wow, that's really cool. I haven't heard that. I would like to check it out. I'm gonna play one, Kurt.
What's that? Oh, X.
It's a band called X, and this is the record called Alphabet Land.
Is that X is in Los Angeles? The 16 and all of that is
yeah. I don't know the release date, but it's.
Yep. I don't have that one.
And this is the one that's on the limited colored vinyl.
Huh.
Yeah. Very cool. It's hard to believe that they're on the Fat Possum label now, and Fat Possum has a lot of their catalog. And so thank God people can hear Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw X was at a place called The Drumstick. If you ever get a chance to look it up, The Drumstick was a little chicken restaurant during the day and a punk club at night in Lincoln, Nebraska. And X was playing there. I was 16, 17 at the time, and they weren't letting minors in. So we all stood outside the big windows that were right behind the stage, and they had closed the curtains. And then John and Exene went to the owner, Larry Lohmeyer, and said, "Open those curtains so those kids can see the show."
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And so, Stephen, did you see X a number of times? I have a customer who grew up in that area, and I don't know, I think he's seen X dozens of times. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Since I'm kind of on the LA punk scene here a little bit, Germs, GI. So I brought this one out because I'm wearing this T-shirt that was designed by Don, the drummer, and is actually sold limited through a place he works with. You probably can't see it all, but it says Germs. It says CV19, and then at the bottom it says shut down 2020. And it's got a germ as opposed to the actual blue circle.
Yeah.
But Shut Down was one of their songs. It's performed live on this version of GI. And so I guess the concept here is that because of COVID-19, we're supposed to shut down 2020, which is, of course, what we have done. Longtime fan of the Germs, Darby Crash and his story are very interesting in a number of ways. I'm not so sure I really liked the movie about him, but What We Do is Secret. But there's a lot of kind of autobiographical stuff that's out there as well that gives a pretty clear indication of what kind of life, really kind of tortured life he led before he took his own life or died. Well, took his own life 3 different ways.
Never saw X live, but I did see XTC.
That's crazy that you saw XTC because they quit touring after like the early 80s and just decided that they didn't want to do it anymore. The Candy Partridge was sick of it. So he said, I'm done with this. And they did a couple one-offs later in the 80s, but they really haven't done anything live for decades. So that's fantastic. I would have loved to have been there for that.
Yeah.
The Go-Betweens. I mentioned this the other day when we had our Australian visitor. He wasn't familiar with them, and that's okay. I mean, right? There's lots of records out there. I've loved the Go-Betweens for a couple decades as well. The Go-Betweens are kind of best described as the kind of jangle pop, indie rock from Australia, basically an 80s band. This is personally one of my favorites. I mean, I don't think it's the one that everyone likes, but they've got probably a half dozen records. And this one's just kind of fun feel to it. It's great, kind of some really cool songs. I
recently picked up a Go-Betweens myself, and I really like it.
Yeah. And this comes so this tells you some Pickles records and tapes, which was the record store I used to frequent when I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh,
got it for $4. Got it for $4 back in 1990.
Oh, if we could go back and get those prices today. Yeah. So Timestamp saw XTC at CBGB's in '79 when Barry Andrews was still in the band. I think they only played about 8 shows with him in the U.S. That is awesome. Yeah. Streets of Your Town is my favorite Go-Betweens song from that album.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorites as well. In fact, I wasn't naive and I wasn't a silly young man, but there's a couple of different things they say in that song that made me think they were singing about Lincoln, Nebraska, because a couple of the names of the streets were songs that were names of streets that I was living around. I thought, well, they must be singing about Lincoln. It's like, no, that's stupid. They're from Australia. But
every town is a Lincoln. Yeah.
Yeah, and a friend of mine was in a band called the Gladstones. He later went on to be in the band For Against, which I shared a record with you the other day, Adam, of one of their earlier records. But they opened for the Go-Betweens at the Bottleneck in Lawrence, Kansas. So he's a big, huge fan too. So he was like over the moon getting to play his little own Jangle Pop in front of his Jangle Pop idols.
Very cool. Yeah. Awesome.
How are we doing on time? Getting close.
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Just picked this one up from my buddy out in Seattle. He had it, didn't want it, didn't need it. Simon Bonney, past, present, and future. Sorry, it's got a bad glare to it. Simon Bonney, since we're still on this kind of Australian kick, was the kind of leader and founder of Crime in the City Solution. If you're familiar with the Crime in the City Solution, which is kind of Australian post-punk, post-rock, depending on how you look at it. They put out about 4 records, I think, and then they all kind of went their own direction. Simon Bonney, ironically, went in the direction of kind of alt country. And I love alt country, don't get me wrong. And so I opened this because it came in, totally sealed. And I was like, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to think of this. And I listened to it and I loved it. It was great. Good. And this is a 2016 release, 2017 release. So, again, and it's on mute, so a fantastic record as well.
Very cool.
So, since I mentioned country, another one of my kind of guilty. I've said before when I've been with you is bluegrass is a guilty pleasure because my mom was a bluegrass musician, and country. I've kind of gotten into country. I started with alt country, but then really when I did DJ stuff in Pennsylvania, really got into kind of old country, kind of folk country, and other pieces. And then another buddy of mine got me into kind of outlaw country, and so this is Terry Allen. This is a re-release of his record Juarez. It's actually still sealed because I have a non-re-release, open version. Terry Allen, are you familiar with Terry Allen?
I'm not at all.
It's
where did you hear about him though?
How to describe Terry Allen? He's where he makes his money is a visual artist. I think he's actually a professor too, or was a professor, and a visual artist, does paintings and is well represented in the painting world, and does whatever that means. So, but he also started in the 70s doing this kind of outlaw country stuff when he was living in Texas, and he lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico now. But and the fun thing about his records, particularly his first 2 records, Juarez and the second one, I can't think of the top of my head, but it's a fantastic record. They're themes, they're thematic. So this Juarez record is the story of a young couple who decided they wanted to get married and run away, and they robbed a liquor store and tried to run to Mexico and stole a car and all these things. And each successive song talks a little bit about the story. But the second one, I wish I had the name off the top of my head, is about a truckload of art that was going from New York to California, and its journey. And I believe, as I understand it right, that the truck had a wreck or had an accident. So there was all kinds of challenges associated with that. But there's a couple of just fantastic songs. It's pretty sardonic in his wit. And there's a song called The Waitress, I think, which it's just one of my favorite songs of all. Just the interaction and the conversation he has with the waitress in his lyrics towards the end of that song it's just hilarious.
Worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more here to show you, then I'm about out. So probably everyone knows this one, or should know this one if they don't, which is the Feelies. Feelies are, we're in New Jersey, kind of late 70s, early 80s. Kind of the start of some of that kind of Jangle Pop era stuff. They got a little bit more Velvet Underground-y at times, but still had a little jangle to them. This is probably one of their better records. I think they only actually put out 4. but this is one of my favorites, The Good Earth by the Feelies. And, you know, you can just kind of see that they kind of had that little 80s look of 80s kind of, you know, Athens, Georgia look, but they were actually from New Jersey. So
very cool. Yeah.
Do you have the Feelies? Have you listened to the Feelies?
I do. I actually have a couple copies of those for sale.
Yeah. Oh, good. So you all know where to go pick one up then.
Yeah. Timestamp said I saw the Phillies 3 times in 1980 because they were so great live. Wow.
Yeah, they were very good live. I got a chance to see them in Nebraska once. But other than that, you know, I've always enjoyed their music. So I think I've got two things left I want to share here, but they're kind of interrelated. So
sure.
Again, the other day I brought in a record by a band called For Against for you to listen to.
Yes.
At your leisure. And this is their first record. It was called Echelons. I'm keeping it in the plastic because one of the really funny, interesting, and fun things about this record was, this band is a friend of mine, several friends of mine. They were early 80s into 2012, 2015, kind of post-punk, jangle pop, shoegaze, depending on which era they were in. Anyway, this was their first release. It was on Independent Project Records. If you're familiar with Independent Project Records, they're out. It was out of Arizona, California, at the time, and a graphic artist by the name of Bruce Leichner was the album designer. He designed the cover, and it came with a shock of wheat. Each copy came with a shock of wheat, and it's on letterpress. If you know what letterpress is, so it's got, you know, raised letters, you know, everything's really kind of cardboardy, but all well put together. Ironically, though their music probably isn't necessarily worthy of a Grammy, this was nominated for a Grammy because of the album design. So it didn't win. I don't know what won, probably Randy Newman or something like that. But but it was a you know, one of those kind of, oh my gosh, Jeff, your album's nominated for a Grammy. And he would run around talking about it, and he was like, "Well, it's not because of the music; it's because of the
cool cover."
cover. but that was still, and if you get a chance to listen to For Against, I mean, I hope you get a chance to listen to that record I gave you, Adam. But also for others, check it out if you can. Again, there's a wide variety in their catalog. They go from the kind of early post-punky sound to a lot more jangle, shoegazy stuff later in their career. They just re-released all their last 6 records in box sets.
Wow.
And their first ones were also on box sets. So I mentioned that one, because I'm a big promoter of For Against, but also because of Independent Project Records. One of the things that's really unique about Independent Project Records is almost all the things they've released are in that kind of letterpress, very nice, fancy layouts. So recently, this is not a record. Well, there's a record in here. Bruce put together a book of all the things that they have done for on Independent Project Records for with these letterpress editions, including this book itself. So you can see there's lots of variety, and they all have very similar looks, but they're always fantastic to have. It's my collection grail. I've started to try and collect as much as I can. In fact, you sold me an Indian Bingo record the other day.
Yeah.
And Indian Bingo is on IPR. And that particular record is one that I have a single by Indian Bingo, but I do not have that album. So I'm excited to kind of get that from you.
Good.
So if you get to go across some of the Independent Project stuff, it's really kind of neat.
Very cool.
The kind of flagship band for Independent Project was Savage Republic, who is still doing it occasionally. And it's kind of industrial noise, post-punk stuff, banging on garbage cans, but still sounding very Greek and worldly. So fun stuff.
Very cool. It's always good to hear stuff about that, discovering it.
So that's the bulk of what I had. I think everything else is stuff.
Stuff for another time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Wow.
and as I said, as I hate to say, I think most of these I picked up, except for a couple of them in the last 3 weeks.
Wow, that's totally cool. Yeah, very cool. Well, that's good to hear. Oh, wow. Well, I do appreciate you. Love that mug. I do appreciate you being out with us today, Kurt. It's always good to hear things and revisit and discover and sometimes rediscover. So
Yeah.
that's really neat, and I appreciate it so much. Hope you have a wonderful day. I think I'm going to see you this afternoon in Wake Forest. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we didn't set a time. Is there any time that's better than a not?
You're fine. Whenever you want to come in, that'll be fine. Unless there's two people are in the shop, I can let you in. Then I have a little place where you can sit, where you're safe and secure, and yeah, things like that.
Great. Yeah, I
And
got to go right up that way anyway, so I thought I'd stop by and say hi.
yeah, absolutely. I look forward to hanging out with you again and letting you check out the Wake Forest location.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is today Thursday? Okay. So tonight is I've got a bike. We're discussing Richard Wright's first solo record, Wet Dream. That's at 9:30 tonight. And tomorrow Alan C. Records is with me. And if things goes as planned, my buddy in Cheshire, Simon's going to be on next week and kind of go from there. And I'm also looking for you to be a guest on Coffee and Vinyl. Yeah, so there we go. Well, thank you so much, Kurt. Thank everybody for joining. I appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing day and get out there and discover some music. And anything Kurt said that was interesting, look for it on YouTube and check it out. And there we go. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good. I'll see you.